Hello folks, and welcome to the channel, or welcome back. And in this episode we're going to continue to work on the restoration of the old house, and this is actually part number 3, where we're going to deal with the ceilings or the floor on the hallway next to the tower and the bathroom. And this is one of the ceilings that I've done before, and you can see the oak planks that are laying on those rafters. And it's those planks that we now will have to create and then install. And here is that ceiling where we need to work on. As you can see, the rafters are already in place, but they are not all that straight, so we'll need to work on them. The planks will be installed on these rafters here, and it's going to form a floor on the hallway into the tower. And at the same time, they will form the ceiling from underneath, from downstairs. And then the second part of creating a ceiling is right here on this frame structure that I have above me. We already have these rafters in place. We shot blasted them. We still have to put a frame in front here, but the oak planks will also be forming a ceiling here on top of that where the bathroom is going to be. So now it's time to have a look at the actual wood we're going to use. Selecting the right wood for the floor is always a little bit of a challenge, but in my case it is very simple and straightforward. This building is from 1616, it is registered, it is heritage. Therefore I'm not free to do whatever I want to do, so the original floor, although it completely rotten away, was oak, and therefore I will have to replace it with some oak planks. Now I could go to a store and buy new oak planks with tongue and groove, but that's going to be a little bit difficult to fit this on these old rafters that are a bit bent, concave, and whatever you have. That's not easy with an oak plank with tongue and groove, so that is not an option. That's the remaining part of a pallet of oak that I bought some time ago, and it used to be this high. And I already did the ceiling in the tower room with it. I already made a door with it. So now I'm going to make 2 more ceilings with it. So all by all, this full pallet here of real solid oak did only cost me about €1,000. And that is very cheap for the amount of oak that you get for it. It was about 2 cubic meters, if that tells you something. The planks are 15 centimeters wide and 2 centimeters thick. Now that's the raw size because I still have to put it through the planer, so it's going to get a little bit smaller, but still it's still a nice width. Now if you're going to get oak, you got to make sure that the oak is absolutely dry, because if it's not dry, then it's going to shrink over time once you have it on your ceiling, and then you're going to have gaps, and this is something you don't want to have. This pallet has been drying for 1.5 years now in the barn here, and you can see I have these spacers in between, so it's air dried, so it's not oven dried. But if you're going to buy oak, I would recommend that you take your humidity meter with you and that you actually measure the humidity. Now typically oak is going to dry about 1 centimeter deep a year, and you shouldn't be using planks that are more than 25 or 20% of humidity. So let's see what we got on these planks here. I have a humidity meter here. I've set it for oak, so let's measure it, and I have 11.6 humidity, 11.6%. So this is good. So let's see how many planks we're going to need. So planks are in total 120, so with the cutouts, let's say 1 meter, and they are 2 meters 70. So that's more than long enough. So basically with 1 layer, because I'm going to lose some with the overlap, with 1 layer of planks of this pile here, I can do half of the hallway, and I will need this twice. And then I need it twice again for the ceiling out in the bathroom. So that's 4 layers of planks. So now I need to carry them out, and then we start working them. I'm going to cut out on these planks a corner like this, and on the opposite side I'm going to do exactly the same. And that way I can have the plank bolted down to the rafter. The next plank will be flipped over. The solid part will then fall into the part that we cut out. And we do this every so often on every plank. And that way you don't have an issue with uneven rafters, or less of an issue. So the first thing I'm going to do is to cut the planks to length, and I'm a little bit lucky because my planks are full-length planks, so I'm covering all the rafters. But in case that would not be the situation, then you should measure the planks so that they meet halfway of the rafters. So now it's time to put them through the planer, and the first thing I'm going to do is trying to get a straight edge on one of those planks. So I'm just going to look the way they are curved, because they always tend to curve in some direction when they're drying, and then I'm going to use the concave side downwards on the planer and try to smooth that side up a bit. Afterwards we'll take the plank through the thickness planer so that we have always equal widths of the planks, and then finally we'll also do it in the thickness of the plank. So this is a little bit of work. And we're going to install a support, a roller for that matter, so that the planks can slide over it, because they're fairly long. And that's about right. I have passed the planks twice through the planer, so once on the edge, on vertical, and then once horizontal. Now the horizontal part, or the width of the plank, doesn't have to be all that clean. It has to be smooth, because still we're going to put it through the thickness planer, and this is what we're going to do right now. The planks have gone for the first time through the thickness planer, and you can see there's a difference between this plank, which is clean all the way, and this plank, which just has some dirty spots still, areas where no wood was taken off. And that's just because this is a lower area. The planks are not even, let's say. So that's why we need to pass them a couple of times through the planer, because you don't want to take off too much in one go. I'm going to give it about a millimeter extra. So now it's time to remove the multiplex, and then we can install the planks. But first of all, I need to get these bolts out, or screws. There's only a couple of them. All right, that should be it. And hopefully we can lift it. We can. So here you have the rafters, and as you can see, they are still in a pretty good shape, but they are a bit concave, so they are bended, and over time they've been sagging through. So I already have flipped them over some time ago, so we get a better support, but now they're sticking out a little bit in the middle. So this is going to be fairly tough, I guess, to get these planks on in a proper way without having them to move around too much. So I'm not quite sure on how I'm going to correct this. There's two ways. I think I can make corrections on top of the rafters, but then you will see it from downstairs. Or I can just put the planks on them and then later level it on the top, because the planks that I'm going to put on here are not the final floor anyway. So that might be the better approach. I think we really have an issue with these old rafters. They are either bent way deep down. If I flip them over, then they are concave, which is okay if they all were the same, but some of them really stick out. And that's going to make it very difficult. I mean, I probably could lift them up a bit, but then again, this is not good. I think, despite the fact I think that we run into an issue here that these old rafters are a bit too much bent. I flipped them over already once so that they don't sag, but they're all different forms, and it's about that much difference in some places. So, I mean, it's going to be hard to install the oak planks on rafters like this. And this area, it's even worse. I have about that much play all the way at the end. So, I probably might get some new oak beams for this, despite the fact that I like to keep things as original as possible. But sometimes you have no other choice. All right. These are the beams that I picked up this morning, and the dimensions are a bit different between them, but not a lot. Some are like 10, this is 9, this is 10. So they differ a little bit, but at least they are straight, as you can see. It is not 100% dry. They've been wind dry for about 2 years. So that is like 2 centimeters down from all sides. So the core might still be a little bit humid. But you know what? It's not really an issue for beams because wood is not shrinking in the length, but it's shrinking in the width. So they may get a little bit smaller or less high, but the length is going to stay the same. And I did check it, and it's sitting around 22%, which is kind of normal, I think, for wind-dried oak. So the way I'm going to replace these old rafters is by taking one at a time out, then place them on the new oak beam, cut the new oak beam to the right length, adjust where I need to adjust, and then I'm going to sand down with a sanding disc on my grinder that oak beam. I don't want to put it through the planer because that's too smooth. I don't want to have the impression that they are like brand new, and if you sand it down, that will be more than good enough in my case, because I like things to be very natural and a little bit rough sometimes. So let's start. So here we are. So let me take the first one out. And now we can measure the opening here and also on the other side and make sure that everything fits properly. So this guy is 8.5 by 8.5, I would say. So here's our first beam. Looking at that, it seems like that is going to be the length. We need to cut it off, so this is too long, so we'll cut that part off. So I think it's the right time now to check how dry the wood is in the middle. Let's see what we got. And this is like 16%. That's good. So in fact, that little bit of humidity on the outside was just because of the rain we had. And just in case you would be interested in the cost of these 7 beams, that is 233 euros, all inclusive. It's time to cut out some pieces. Next is cleaning up the beam on 3 sides, and therefore I'm using my sander. We are nearing the end of this video, and the first rafter is now in. I still have to do 6 of them. It's going to be the same methodology, cutting and chiseling and knocking them in. But once that is done, then I will be able to put the planks up, and that's something for the next video. So keep watching, because in the next video we're going to finish off this floor here with the planks. We will also finish up the ceiling of the bathroom, and we will be finishing up the framework which needs to come in here for the bedroom. And maybe we do something about insulation on the roof for the bathroom in that video. So I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye. Well, let's see if we can get this guy out.